right, good morning everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to talk about Lori and Chad Daybell's new lawyer and the 3-hour bond hearing that was on Friday. Also on Friday there was a 2-hour-long Dateline extravaganza on the Daybells, and I haven't watched it yet. Let me know if you watched it, if it's worth a watch. I figured that there's just going to be a lot of repeating and stretching a few minor parts into 2 hours, so I haven't watched it yet. I did watch the 3-hour-long bond hearing, which has got to be some sort of a record for bond hearings, and that was enough Daybell for me. This is a long, slow, bizarre case, and I needed to pace myself on the old Dateline. But let me know. Let me know if it's worth watching, and also if there's just like one or two interesting parts about it, maybe let me know in the comments. But the most interesting part of this case for me recently is Chad and Lori's new lawyer, Marc Means. So, man, we've come a long way with this one. Man, remember when they were in Hawaii and we were talking about Tiny Bubbles by Don Ho and wondering when Lori was going to get arrested, and now here we are in May, still doing bond hearings, and Lori and Chad get a new lawyer. Okay, so I hear that. I'm like, all right, well, you know, you hear this case being compared to Casey Anthony. You hear this case being compared to OJ, you know, as far as all the media attention and just how wild it's been. The makeup and everything. That's the other thing. Lori came out in the bond hearing with the mask on. Everyone's wearing masks, and I was like, you know that she's got her bright red clown homemade Skittle and blood lipstick behind the mask. It's like I heard it was super hot in the courtroom for the bond hearing, and it would have been funny if like 2 hours in, just the mask pressed up against Lori's face, you started to see the lipstick like bleed through, or if she would have just drawn a smile with lipstick on the outside of the mask. That could have been something. That's like something that she would have gone for. So anyway, it's all coming to a head. The attorney general is looking at all the murders, the whole thing, you know, the kids. If she could have produced them, she would have at this point. She doesn't want to be in jail. So I have a really horrible feeling that the kids are gone. And so here we are. It's getting the media attention as OJ and Casey Anthony. The attorney general takes over the whole thing. It's getting real. Autopsies are coming back. You got to think murder charges are coming down the line. The kids' charges aren't going anywhere, you know. She went from a whole team of lawyers, and then as of last week, you hear Chad and Lori, new lawyer. So I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to be, you know, this great lawyer, or some lawyer with insane experience for criminal cases, the whole 9 yards. You know, picture the lawyers for all the other cases I named. Great lawyers, willing to get in there, have had years of experience. Something in, all right, who's their new lawyer? They both consolidated lawyers. Chad, they're all on the same page. He's doing Chad and Lori. And the lawyer they hired was Marc Means. And Marc Means is like a family lawyer, like a bankruptcy, trip and falls, you know. Have you been in a collision? Have you been injured? Well, you may not know your rights. So call Marc Means. He's like one of those. And so for the past, all of yesterday afternoon, I was sitting there thinking, why would Lori and Chad get a fucking bankruptcy lawyer? What? Are they just broke? Is that what it is? There's just no money, and this guy, Marc Means, was affordable? But what you would think, even like I think what argues against that is in a case this high profile where the lawyer knows, all right, this is going to make my career. I could come in there and, you know, shake things up a little bit and be a known lawyer, you know. And so usually, even if the client's broke with the biggest case that's happening in the country, they'll still have a good lawyer or a famous lawyer because they'll strike a deal or we'll work it out at the end or blah, blah, blah. And so it's like they hired Marc Means. And so it's like, okay, one, maybe they're broke. You know? Two, maybe he's the same crazy religious fucking dystopian end times nut job as they are. But Nate from East Idaho News, so after the bit, we'll talk about. This is a big buildup, but we'll talk about the bond hearing. But after the bond hearing, the Marc Means guy took questions from reporters, and Nate from IdahoNews.com asked him, "Are you the same religion as Lori?" And he said no, but his answer, I don't know. He was either really surprised by the question or he just lied, because he heard the question and then he goes something like, "No, I'm nothing. I'm non-denominational." I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was a very like, nothing, no, definitely not. Next question type of thing. So, I mean, maybe he's in their End Times podcast. So he was a friend that, and he's like, well, I'll fight the crazy angles that normal lawyers would be like, we're not going to bring that up in court. That's nuts. So maybe there's that, or I don't know. If anyone's heard a theory why at the start of one of the most insane criminal cases that most people have ever seen, and where both of them, their whole life's probably on the line. This is either life in jail or you got to pull out some Casey Anthony, O.J. Simpson type stuff and get off. But this is it. It's not the time to get cheap on your lawyer, on your representation at this point. Okay. So Marc Means, I went to his website, and like I said, he's like, have you tripped and fallen? Well, let's sue someone into oblivion that had no part of it. And you go to his website, which is marc-means.com, and it says, Means Law, don't get thrown under the bus. And then there's a picture on the homepage, or on every page of his website, it says, don't get thrown under the bus. And the biggest picture of a bus you've ever seen. Enormous picture of a bus. I've never seen someone go with the bus angle as hard as Marc Means. So his biz catch line is, don't be thrown under the bus, which isn't a horrible tagline, I guess. Kind of a stock line, but try to think of a better one. Means Law. Means Law means business. Anyway, even if you go with don't be thrown under the bus, if Marc sees this, you got to take the giant, enormous picture of the bus off your website. I get it, like you're ramming home the sentiment of, hey, don't be thrown under the bus, and so here's a bus to look at. But it's on every page of the website. So say you're on like the home page, the big bus is right there. To see anything on the home page, you have to scroll past the bus and then read and then it's like, okay, I want to go to the About section. You click on the About section, and it's just the bus still. Just a giant, enormous picture of a tour bus. It's like, we get it. We don't want to be under it. We don't want to be thrown under it. But I want to read your website. It's hard if there's just an enormous bus on every page. So he's all about the bus. He loves it. And you go to the About section, and like I said, it's like, we specialize in bankruptcy and family law. And maybe, I was thinking, these theories are getting out there, but maybe the strategy was of not getting a criminal lawyer is they're thinking like optics, like, well, we're not charged with murder, and so this is a family court type case. The kids are not being produced, but that doesn't mean they're hurt or anything, and we're going to get a family lawyer or something like that. But, I mean, whether they think this is just a family case or not, I don't know. It's a weird decision. So, they got this new lawyer, Marc Means. He's all about giant pictures of buses and bankruptcies, and if you trip and fall, you call him. And you could say Lori and Chad, tripped and fell, I guess, and killed their whole family, and that's why But interesting choice nonetheless. All right, so the bond hearing on Friday. Idaho just opened up, so they just opened up the court. So I think this is probably one of the first big. So everyone in there has masks on. I heard later that it was incredibly hot from the East Idaho News guys, insanely hot in the courtroom. So everyone's got masks. And I think it's stiflingly hot. At one point, the judge had to call recess because she couldn't. She had more of like a neck warmer thing on as her mask, and she just couldn't breathe. I think everybody was struggling hard. But the whole like bizarreness of there's just no one in the court. There's barely anyone in the courtroom. Everyone has masks on. Just heightened how weird it was that they had a lawyer with zero experience. He even said during it that he was like, I might not be the most experienced lawyer, but, and I don't even really think he had anything to follow that up. He was just like, I might not be the most experienced lawyer. But yeah, I guess I just am not. So we have a lawyer with zero experience in a stifling hot courtroom that has barely anyone in it, wearing a bandana, trying to give his first. I can't imagine wearing those suits that the lawyers wear in one of those stifling hot courtrooms with the mask. I'm sure it was a sweaty butt fest in that courtroom. All right, so obviously they want the bond lowered. We've become pretty used to these bond hearings. And so his strategy was a few different things. First, it almost reminded me of, remember the scene in Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he pretends to be a lawyer for a period of time, and he's in there and he's just, you know, a con man pretending to be a lawyer, and he's like, members of the jury, this is a picture, you know, I'd like to bring this into evidence. And the judge is looking at him like, Mr. Abagnale, this is a bond hearing. There's no jury. That's kind of what this felt like, because he got in there, and he was moving to strike. Basically, that was his main strategy. Everything that came up, Marc Means, their new lawyer, was like, well, I'd like to move to strike. And so the first thing is, so they called this bond hearing, Lori's team, a month ago. And leading up to the month, I guess that you can argue these bond hearings orally, or you can bring in witnesses to argue. The prosecution can bring in witnesses to argue that the bond shouldn't be hired. You can do whatever you want to argue against it. So Marc Means, the new lawyer, they call for this bond hearing like a month ago, and the day before, the prosecution puts in like a big packet of their argument against it. So Marc Means, the new lawyer, his first argument that this whole thing is prejudicial. That was his big word for this whole thing. And it didn't really carry enough weight, I think, the first few times he used it, so he ended up just using it over and over again. Prejudicial. This is prejudicial, and I would like to also call this prejudicial. So we overused that word, but he was saying that, you know, we called this bond hearing a month ago, and they had a month to put in their arguments against it, and just yesterday, less than 24 hours before this bond hearing that they've known about for a month, they put in a huge packet of affidavits and all this stuff. That's prejudicial. That is prejudicial. And the judge is like, I don't think it is. And the prosecution is like, yeah, there's no rules that say I have to do any of the stuff that he's going on and on about. And so that one gets completely just runs into a brick wall. And then the second one, he also really builds up like the whole COVID-19 situation, which is smart. A lot of people are getting out on bail and bond because of that. So he was saying, you know, they can't make $1 million bond. She's not working. Chad's books aren't selling. His books aren't selling, people. And, all right, so then the next thing, the big thing, and it goes on and on and on, is his next point of why she should go home and why everything is just totally prejudicial and horrible against Lori is that, so he paints this picture that it's pretty much impossible for him to adequately defend Lori with the new COVID. He can't go into the jail anymore and see her face to face because of the new COVID plan where they don't want people bringing it in, so you got to meet on the phone. So his whole next thing is, I have 1,600 pages. He tries to just make it sound so like I have 1,600 pages of documents that I have to go over with her. I'm sitting there holding a phone with all the documents. We got all this to go over, and it's just basically impossible to do my job correctly with, you know, not being able to meet face to face with her. And the judge said something like, well, maybe you should, I like this line. She's like, maybe you should talk to other defense attorneys in the area and figure out what they're doing because, you know, they're figuring something out. And Marc Means is just like, prejudicial, the bus. I don't be thrown under the bus. I kept thinking after I went to his website that he was going to show a picture of the bus. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is an enormous bus which you do not want to be thrown under. The judge is like, there's no jury here. That would have been funny, too, if during the whole, and this is prejudicial, the judge just passes out from heat exhaustion with her neck warmer on. What was I talking about? Yeah, so he's saying, I can't meet with her. And then the big old ace in the hole that they figured that he tried to paint as just this, you know. So there's that one. And the whole, how am I supposed to do this on the phone? This is a big, and he's making it sound all complicated, but it's hard sitting there listening to him ramble on about, I don't have the space to hold the papers. And Lori's sitting there, and it's hard to not be like, where are the kids? This isn't, no one cares that you can't hold the papers. You know, that's an easy, you know, any time that Marc tries to make it look like Lori is this woman that the media is attacking, they're just so mean and everything's prejudicial. If you just sit there and think about it and go, yeah, right, maybe all of that, but where are the kids? That's all anyone is trying to, that's kind of prejudicial. Where are the fucking kids? And so he's tried to paint that, didn't really go anywhere, and then the big old ace in the hole is the infamous recorded phone call, which actually they maybe could have possibly argued, I don't know, for something. It made me a little bit nervous, but the story behind that is, so he can't go in to see Lori. He's got all these documents. He can barely hold them. It's a nightmare. And so he goes in. Now they can only talk on the phone, and he went in to talk to Lori, and he was assured over and over again, and he brings it up. I was told that our conversations were not going to be recorded over and over and over. I was told they were not going to be recorded. And then on the line, I heard a little beep. I heard a beep, sounded like it was recorded, and I had a feeling that they did record it, even though they said they weren't going to record it. And then, you know, like, real long story short, like I said, 3-hour bond hearing. I think that he may have, you know, he doesn't have any experience, so I think he maybe, you know, just went a little, he started like arguing the big case, like at the bond. There was a lot of like, all right, dude, this is the bond hearing. And so he's going, and they recorded it. And there's an affidavit, there's a part in an affidavit where the lieutenant at the jail says, hey, we accidentally recorded this 30-minute phone call. The Daybells, can you please delete it? And so Marc Means was right, it was recorded. It is a little bit sketchy, you know, you want it to go according to the Constitution, and Marc Means definitely he definitely made sure to say, you know, just because there's COVID-19 does not mean that Lori's constitutional rights should be violated. And he's 100% right. And so he's got this phone call that's recorded. He's trying to make it look really prejudicial. The truth of it, it sounds to me, and kind of what it got chalked up as by the prosecution and the judge, is that, yeah, it was recorded. It was recorded on accident, you know, that due to the whole COVID-19, kind of all the processes is different. It was recorded on accident. It was brought up that it was recorded on accident, and it was deleted without anybody listening to it. And I think Marc Means makes a fair point. It's like, how can you prove that no one listened to it? But probably everybody listened to it. You know, how am I supposed to ever, since we can't meet in person, and I got all, you know, I got the phone and the documents, and it's a nightmare, and the one or couple times that we did do the phone call, it was recorded. They said it wasn't recorded, and then it was recorded. So how will I have the confidence to ever work privately with that was kind of his big final, come on, baby, 3 hours. I do give him credit for fighting. He looked and sounded pretty, you know, long-winded and stupid, and it was, you know, the other attorneys just gets to over and over again basically being like, according to the law of Idaho, I don't have to do any of the stuff that he's saying I have to do. But he fought hard for 3 sweaty, face-masked hours. Marc Means fought for Lori's bail. Came up short. It didn't get reduced. Both the judge and the prosecution were able to chalk up the accidental recorded phone call as, yeah, not good, but no harm was done. You know, that call isn't going to be put into evidence or, you know, anything. It wasn't ideal that it was recorded, but hey, it's COVID-19. Everyone's just trying to be safe. It was recorded, and has now been deleted. What else you got, Mr. Means? And it ends, he took questions. He came out of the courtroom, Marc Means, and took questions, and it's my opinion that he definitely is enjoying it, the attention. You know, it's not every day where you're just a trip and fall lawyer, and then the biggest case in the whole world probably falls in your lap. I mean, I don't know. Fair play to the guy. So let me see. Oh, one thing I really liked that he did, a lot of the questions, so he's outside in front of the courtroom answering questions for the media out there after the 3-hour-long bond hearing. I'm sure it felt amazing to get outside. And they're asking him, anytime a question comes up, it's like, why doesn't she just produce the kids, Marc? You know, they're talking about the trial, and every like two or three questions, it'll be like, but the kids. And his response are, I can't, or where was it? I can't comment on that, but I appreciate the question. I like that. He goes, I can't comment on that, but I appreciate the question. He keeps like the vibes good, and I like that. I might start using that. Like someone comes up and asks you a question, you're like, I can't comment on that, but I appreciate the question. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Just like the person asking, it's like, what? So let me see if I got anything else. Record a call. He loved the motion to strike. I think he did a motion to strike 3 different times, and the judge was just like, no, this is just a bond hearing. All right, I think that's it. I'm going to cut it off here. Hopefully the birds weren't too much. Hopefully you're having a good day. I'll see you next time. Why? Starving why?